of the United States of America and to the republic,
which is stand
one nation, under God, indivisible. Bear with me a second. I want to pull everything up. Have it all up in front of me. Stephen, you're going to be able to put up the sketches and things that Mike has done, or Mike, are you going to do that? What's the best way?
I sent it to you guys. I don't have it with
As
me.
we get to that point in the agenda.
Well, I guess I can put it on a flash drive. No, I don't have. No, I didn't bring it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stephen, you able to pull that up?
Yes, I am.
Or you need me to do it? No? Okay. I mean, I have it. So.
I've also sent it to everyone in the chat.
All right, so we'll call the
on the
meeting
bottom.
to order at 7:02 p.m.
I think Kurt's frozen.
Okay. Perfect. All right, so item number 3, public comment. Is there any public? I'm frozen? Hello? Hold
Yeah,
on.
you're frozen up. There, you're back.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna switch to my phone. But why don't we do this, since there's no public comment? Let's go on to item number 4. So Stephen, if you want to pull up the drawings that we have, and then Mike, if you want to start kind of talking a little bit through those, I'm going to log off and log back in.
Can everyone see?
Yep.
Okay.
This was a old,
Yes.
that's, Steve, that's an old site plan.
That's the old one.
That's the old one for the existing building. You got the PDF I sent you, correct?
Somewhere, yes.
Here, I'll send it to you, Stephen. Hold on one second.
I have concept presentation PDF 7-13.
Yeah,
I didn't send that.
I just sent it to you, if you can still hear me.
Yep.
Maybe if I don't move, it works. All right, well, while he's pulling that up and while everyone can hopefully still hear me. So at our last meeting, we'll just kind of recap and then we'll kind of talk a little bit about the goal of tonight and then what we'll be hoping to accomplish in August and September. So our last meeting, we kind of focused on the current site on Pine Street. Is it feasible to, whether it be reuse the existing building, add to that existing building, or knock it down and build something entirely new? So we kind of talked a little bit about that, kicked around some ideas, but primarily focused on the reuse of the existing structure, either some or all of it. Once that conversation ended, then we had a quick conversation about essentially building as new. And, you know, that is at a site to be determined. We kicked around a few different general locations, one being the land behind Stop and Shop, another being up at Tri-Town Plaza, just to kind of give us some frame of reference as to what we'd be looking at. So we asked Mike if he could put together some conceptual drawings of building a brand new building. You know, if any of you have taken a look at some of this, it takes into account some of the existing uses of the current facility that we have on Pine Street. I know it does not meet all of our needs. I'm sure that Zach and Mary would want to make some changes to this, and that's fine. This is more just to give us kind of a discussion point to see where we could go from here. We can certainly make changes and tweaks. So my goal would be to have a very open and frank conversation about building a new building. And then everyone can then go back. We'll meet again in roughly 2 weeks, that first week in August. And at that point, I would like us to make a decision as to how we would go forward. So then we could start formulating a plan of going to first to the selectmen and getting ourselves some money so we can do the initial real conceptual drawings with a goal of being on the ballot in the spring when we vote on the budget. I don't think being on the ballot in November is realistic at that point, because we would need to have everything done by September, and that's just not going to be possible. But I think if we're on the ballot for April of 22, I think that's a very realistic time frame. So with that, Mike, if you want to, I see we have all the correct drawings up. So if you want to kind of walk us through what you put together, and we can have some just open conversations. Did everybody hear me?
I can.
Mike's here.
Okay.
We lose Mike?
Yeah, I think we lost Mike.
Oh, we lost Mike.
Yes, we did.
Okay. Well, then while we're trying to track Mike down, then why don't we go through this kind of as a group? And then when Mike gets back on, we can continue through. So Stephen, if you can move us to page 2. All right. So it looks like what Mike did was he did a conceptual drawing of putting a brand new building at Pine Street. So we can kind of see how that is fitting. Here comes Mike back now. Want to go to page 3, Stephen?
I'm on my phone.
Okay, there we go.
Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead, Mike.
Okay, so basically we took the program that we talked about last meeting, between 50 and 60,000 square feet, utilizing all the different venues that we wanted to put in there. Again, these are concept drawings. These are not locked down, constraints of anything. You'll use, once it's approved, you're going to use the time to tweak through this and go through schematics. But basically, we developed 2 concepts. One, 60,000 square feet of gross space on 1 floor. And then what we did was we took some of the space in the back and stacked it to a back portion being about 10,000 square feet of 2-story, in order to provide some parking to the back area off of Pine Street, where the houses are, in order to allow some parking for where we put the food bank and the daycare facility, but almost like a drop-off area, pickup area, things like that. So looking at the site as you see it right now, the building is on the field, okay? And then the parking area that's shown there would be once we take the building down, the existing community center down. And that we just threw a block of parking in there. We think you can probably get somewhere between 150, 200 cars easily on that site. So the way we designed the building, we laid it out so that you could almost turn it if you had to turn it in 2 directions. Right now, there's part of it faces Derby Avenue and the other part faces the parking lot area. But you can turn that building in either direction depending on how a particular site lays out. If you go to the next slide. Yeah, okay. So you can see some of the dimensions and the square footages that are on the floor plan. This particular site, the floor plan is all 1 story. 1 story is going to be about 63,000 square feet gross space, 53,000 net. net being the corridors throughout the building. And the way we laid it out, we're putting the pool and the gymnasium on the Derby Avenue side to give it some frontage, give it some stature on that building. So you're not looking right now when you look at the current community center, you're looking at the backside of the building and it doesn't look pleasant. In this configuration, you can almost can't tell whether the front door is on Derby Avenue or the front door is on the parking lot side of Pine Street. We haven't identified about 8,000 square feet of future use. That could be anything that is needed, or it could be when we tweak all the other spaces like the senior center, if we find out the 4,000 is not enough, or we want more meeting rooms, or we want a fitness center that's larger, we can tweak those numbers around the building and beef up the square footage of any of the space. Again, these are only block diagrams to articulate what it would be on the gross side of the gross basis on square footage. Next slide. So, yeah, right there. So we took that where it says new parking, we took that future space and we actually put it up to the second floor above the child care center and the Valley Food Bank. And in that configuration, you'll see 2 stairwells and an elevator that gets you up to the second floor. Now, what that does is allows you for, people to either people coming in to park to get food at the Valley Food Bank or deliveries that they're going to require. And then we would create some kind of sidewalk situation to the child care center, that for drop-off purposes. We may even look at putting a second front door, like a back door there for the fitness and aerobics, if we had to do that. Again, this is all subject to review to discussion purposes. Next slide. All right, so that next slide is really shows you the room above. It's about 10,000 square feet above the child care center and the food bank. And what this layout really helps with too, you'll be able to add the rooftop units for heating and air conditioning in the middle of the building and hide those views from just about any spot. A lot of times when you have a low roof line, you're going to be building vision wall panels to block all the heating and air conditioning units. In this case, we may still have to do some of that, but not to the extent, I think, with the amount of space that we have in the middle of the building that we're going to need. And we're going to need some big units for 60,000 square feet. You're going to need, some significant air conditioning and heating, especially for the pool and gym. Next slide. So this slide just gives you 2 conceptual views of what they would look like off of Derby Avenue. Again, this is with a barrel roof on the pool and gym. You can go to a flat roof, you can go a gable roof, any kind of configuration you want. Option 1 it's all 1 story, and it will, you won't have to pay for an elevator or stairs in that configuration, but it takes up more real estate. Option 2 gives you that flexibility of expansion on the second floor, and it gives you the parking area that could be very valuable down the road. Again, it's gonna, a lot of this is all concept and will change as we get into the discussion of what this building really wants to look like. Next slide. So this is just a concept of some of the materials that we would consider on the outside. The gray being metal panel, the glass you can see, and then the concrete masonry panel that we would use somewhere. And that material could change. We could go to thin brick. We can go to all metal panel. It really depends on what we want to look to be. So, and I think what this does, when you come down Derby Avenue, and I understand the purpose of the fence because of the field, This now opens up that whole area to be more attractive to the neighborhood. You take the fence down, you create some nice landscaping, and it opens everything up. Next slide. This is just a side view looking at the Pine Street entrance to the parking lot. As a walk, you can walk around that area. You can even put in a walking trail around this building for the seniors. That could be something nice that would go along with the fitness center and the aerobics area. All right, next slide. Yeah, okay, so this is kind of looking at the building from the north, off the parking area, where the existing gym is of the community center. The left side of that being the senior center, and then in that middle box, there's a lot of glass on that community center spot all the way to the left, but in the middle box is that cafe lounge for people, either for seniors when they're there, or for people who are visiting the pool, waiting for class to end, or gym basketball or whatever, instead of being in the space. Now we've created those floor plates on the pool and the gym to be 7,700 square feet, giving us about 20 feet on a side of each one of the pool and gym for bleachers. Okay, final. Okay, so that just gives you an overall perspective again. All right, I'll take any questions.
All right, so I know this is designed on the Pine Street lot, but obviously this could be dropped any place that we wanted it to go, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then what would the projected cost of this building? So let's say we drop this baby in my yard. What's the projected cost?
We'll have to do some conceptual estimates. I have someone that's helping me out that will do that for me. But I got to believe we're probably in the $15-16 million range based on sheer size. And then that does not include the demolition and abatement.
And is there a big difference between one floor and two floors in cost?
You'll get a little bit of, it's probably a neutral, because you're going to get some savings going to 2-story for foundation and ground work. But you're adding parking, you're adding some things that were going to be beneficial to the building usage. So I would say, again, it's a wash, but you got to look at the benefit of picking up that parking and that ability to utilize that space in and around where the food bank and the childcare would be. Again, we could look at flipping things. For example, if we feel that the food bank maybe doesn't want to be there and wants to be on Pine Street where the senior center is, we can flip those and adjust the building. So there's ways of looking at this that, we're going to sit down as a committee and say, okay, where are the adjacencies? Where are the things that need to be together? The locker rooms, those in the right place, or should we move those? We got 2 lavatories there. We probably don't need both those. Maybe we make, a little bit bigger of each one, the ladies and the men's. So there's a bunch of things that we got to look at. But I can get within a week or two, maybe for the next meeting, I get you concept estimates of what this is going to cost. I'd like to sit down with an estimator to understand the cost of putting the barrel roof on versus a straight gable roof or a flat roof. A flat roof is going to be a little bit cheaper, but it's not going to give you that same look. That look, it's in a residential neighborhood. You'd hate to put a industrial type looking building in that place. I think the barrel vault gives you uniqueness to its concept of its look, And I think it gives you some ability to get some natural light in there as well.
The gym, so it's 7,700 square feet. How big is the gym currently in the community center now?
I believe it's 50 by 100. And then the gym is actually smaller because you got a stage and you got seating. If I recall, when I walked it off, I think it was 50 by 100.
Okay.
Can you fit, how many gyms can you fit right now in that model? Can you fit 3 gyms in that model? 7,700 square feet? Probably not, right?
What size gym? You can go side to side. You fit 2.
Three full-size gyms to be able to run, like, if you want to run like anywhere from adult leagues to kids leagues to high school sports.
You're not going to run 3 gyms in there. No.
All right. So that's something we'll need to look at as well.
That's a lot of real estate. That's a lot of real estate.
Yep.
But you can do 2 side by side?
You can split it in half and run smaller. Yeah, you get smaller gym areas. You pull the gym bleachers back, and you can probably drop the side baskets, and you do 2 smaller courts. But
Okay.
because it's full court, this 50 by 100 is a court size, so you're running a full court, big court.
Right. Okay. Comments from or questions for other people?
I got a quick question if I could, Chris Edwards.
Go ahead, Chris.
Mike, on this plan, I don't see anything for the skate park. Is that worked in here somewhere or?
Well, it would probably have to be replaced once the building comes down, or we move it into the parking lot sometime during the construction period. So we pick it up. We're gonna have to pick it up anyway. And then we probably just store it and move it and then place it back into the area where the parking is. If you go back in that first screen, Steve, you can move it all the way back to the site, right? No, next one. So there's room. If you look at where the main entrance is, there's room to the left going toward the river area that you could
Okay.
probably put the skate park back in place over there.
Okay. And the last comment I have, if we were to drop this as you have it, you mentioned something about taking the fence down on the Derby Ave side. My only concern, and I'm sure Tim Connors will back me up on this, is at least once a month, we have a car go through that fence.
Yeah.
Because they do not know how to navigate that corner.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. My worry would be them not navigating that corner that once a month and going through the building or hitting the car in the parking lot.
Well, you probably go to some kind of more residential barrier system, like they have in the Merritt Parkway, the wood barriers.
Okay,
You know,
yeah,
And that at least doesn't make it look, raw,
industrial.
old. Yeah,
Okay, makes sense.
that's what I would do. You'd have to do that anyway, probably, because that is a dangerous curve for whatever reason.
Okay.
Who's next for questions?
I got some, Mike, so we pretty much maxed out that area with pretty much 55,000 square foot of a building.
Yeah, if you look at one of the plans, we're actually creeping over the setback line. So we'd have to modify that unless Jimmy wants to let that go. But a corner of the building would be, and we can adjust the building a little bit here and there to get over there, but you're maxing out that field. So during construction, you're going to have to logistically look at how do you park construction vehicles and construction parking while you're occupying the building full time for the existing use. So you may have to, for example, the parking by the church on Derby Avenue, that may be, something that we're gonna have to look at in terms of use that parking area temporarily.
Yeah, while construction's going on.
Right.
All right.
Is there any place designated for the community center buses, we have 2, the food bank has the van, the town has 3 pickup trucks. Where we're gonna house all of the vehicles that are currently at our building, whether we be here or whether we move, I think that's something that we're gonna have to look at. I don't see where we could even house it with the way this is situated unless I'm missing something. And I don't think there's anywhere else in town, but I may be wrong on that.
Well, we can park, the pickups can certainly go someplace else. As for the buses and the vans, those we'd have to find spaces there for them.
We'd figure it out. We'd figure out space there.
Okay,
That's getting into
I'm just letting you know, we've been trying to figure out that's fine. We could have another discussion about it. We've been trying to figure out spacing for that for 5 years and no one can tell me where else we could park anything else, but that's fine. We could table it. Thank you.
I think you want to look at where they're being used. If they're being used at the community center, then you want to park them as close as you can to there. And we'll find space there. So we'll figure that out.
Okay.
And that's why the 2-story addition in the back makes maybe a little bit more sense, because it does provide you about 10,000 square feet of ground parking.
Okay, who else has questions? No, okay, I have a couple more. Steven, if you can go to page 3. So in this, so we'll call it the upper right-hand corner, upper left-hand corner, excuse me, where the childcare area is, homework room, game room, so on and so forth. Is that designed to provide some space for the Boys and Girls Club? Or would that be for us to potentially run our own program? And if it's for us to run our own program, I'd like Zach and Mary to maybe weigh in to see if that's feasible or if that's something we should use that space for differently.
When Mary and I looked at it today, if we were to go to the route of running our own program, we do think that space, there's enough space there between the childcare, the homework room, and the game room.
And you also have the 8,000, 9,000 square feet to the right of the future use. And if you went upstairs to 2nd story, you'd have 10,000 square feet.
Yeah, I'm more thinking about the gym. We're gonna need to get more space for the gym, and then the pool with the regulation size pool, and then that fitness center will probably be a little bit bigger as well. So that's kind of what I'm looking at right now, trying to figure out the best option for that.
I think the reason that Zach is mentioning these items, the fitness center, the pool, the gymnasium, and the childcare center is we're looking at this as this is an extremely large building. There's definitely enough space at 50 or 60,000 that I think we can make it work for our needs and meet our needs. But we need certain areas to be big enough so that we could generate the revenue we need to be able to sustain this building. So I think that's something that we have to think about. And those areas, the pool, the gymnasium, and a daycare kind of childcare center will help us be able to do that.
Okay, good.
So, in looking at the space, if you look at the 2 options, since we haven't identified that whole 2nd floor, it may be wise to put the meeting rooms upstairs and look at that meeting room on the 1st floor space as, other functions that you need for the community center for different uses.
Hey, Mike, the open space on the 2nd floor, the 7881.
Yeah.
For future use, can that be turned into a gym on the 2nd floor? Is that feasible?
That's actually if you want to make it bigger, you could probably put the gym there, on that 2nd gym, a smaller gym there, and then you could even put a 2nd floor on there if you had to.
So
If you
it
want-
give you 2 gyms at the main gymnasium at 7,700 square foot. And then
Yeah.
the open for future use, you can actually cut that down and put another full-size gym up there.
You can put a good sized gym, yeah, absolutely.
Would that work, Zach?
I think so. Yeah, like I said, as long as they're regulation size gyms, I mean, like kind of building off what Mary said, the gym could be a great opportunity to rent out post AAU tournaments, get in partnerships with FCBL possibly and other organizations around that they come in and they use this gym and just source of generating revenue.
And that, that's a good point, Zach. I don't think there's any belief, at least certainly not by me, that this is going to be budget neutral. The running of this facility, it's nowhere going to generate enough revenue to pay for itself. So I think the more things that we can do that give us the potential to bring extra revenue in, whether it be, tournaments like this or swim meets or different events, I think would be very beneficial. So I think we need to keep that in mind as we're looking at this space, how we could use it to help generate some additional money down the road to just kind of offset monthly costs.
I agree.
To add to that, in regards to the pool, I know we talked about a splash pad. Because again, if families are going to bring their kids or try to make it a family affair, you're going to need something more than just a lap pool to have for the kids or have for the families to come in. So if, you're joining for the month, you're paying a monthly fee, you want to bring your kids to the, the splash pad, or your wife wants to work out while you're taking care of the kids or vice versa. There's got to be, enough, not only just rooms, but enough activities that, even though we're renting out all this space, we don't want to limit what the actual patrons, the townspeople can use and not use. So we have to make sure we have enough in there for them also.
Can I ask a question on just going back a little bit from, I'm sorry I wasn't on the last meeting.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
Originally, what was the original dollar amount that we were anticipated that the town would be able to support for the building?
I think we were looking at realistically between 12 and 15. I think the preference would be closer to 12, but with an understanding of, it could be higher.
Because the only concern I have just at the moment is that, if Mike mentioned earlier that he thought this was projecting at 16 plus, we're already at the top of our mark, and without a site location, we're not gonna trip over ourselves on the dollar amount, because the groundwork alone is very substantial to a building like this. So for us to get any real accurate numbers, we might want to pick that site. If this is the site that we want to use, we might want to just lock it down so we can go to a better estimating platform.
Well, Jim, that's a great point. And that's what I would like our goal to be for the August meeting. We spent the last meeting just looking at the existing building on Pine Street and how we could potentially retrofit it. Everybody wanted to at least get an idea of what we'll call building from the ground up would look like. And then we're going to have to kind of compare and contrast the two, but taking money into account as well.
Was there any work done on the existing building? I just did a comprehensive walkthrough of that, basically about the second floor. So I would probably say that the retrofit that building is going to be astronomical.
Yeah,
we'd probably be better off with a new building like this concept.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what came out of that, the discussion. Some people had some concerns. I don't want to speak for everybody, but just the building itself and the condition that was in, and what it would cost just to kind of remediate everything that we would need to be remediated, and then adding these additional things that we want: additional gym space, a pool, fitness center, so on and so forth. So, where would we get the best bang for our buck? Understanding that obviously retrofitting an existing building would be the cheaper alternative. But because of so many additional things that need to be done because of the age and the condition of that building, that it may make more sense, to build new. And, maybe we're spending, $1 million or $2 million extra. I don't want to throw that around like it's nothing, but, if you're going to spend 10 million to fix up the existing building, or you're going to spend 13 or 14 million for a brand new building that has pretty much everything that you want brand new, it probably makes sense to spend the extra 3 or 4 million at that point to kind of get what you want long term. So, a couple other things that we have to think about as well, and since Jimmy brought up the cost and how we're going to pay for all this. We have to keep that in mind as well, because if we build on Pine Street, we go out, we figure out what the cost of this building is going to be. We take out a bond issue, and we have principal and interest payments for 30 years. You really can't be too creative with that. Maybe you can, skip an interest payment the first year or two. Maybe you can do some creative things with variable interest rates or refinancing. But it's got to be what it is what it is. If we got involved with a public-private partnership, and we've talked about some different locations, I think that's where we can be a little bit more creative, a little bit more aggressive with the financing and tie it to whether it be development goals or some type of performance objectives, and base payments and things on tax revenue coming in. We talked a little bit before about the building not being able to potentially pay for itself. But if it was a part of a private-public partnership, where would be some mixed use built around it, it could help offset some of those costs. So, but to your point, I think we need to kind of get a number, decide on a location, and then take it from there.
Even with Mike's estimates right there, then you're talking about taking the building down, the remediation just to take the building down. You're probably anywhere from another, 500 to 1.5 million. It depends on what you find inside the building.
Absolutely.
So, we're pushing closer to the, top 18 million plus at that point. So if you break down the square footage at that number, we need to cut about 20,000 square foot to get to the 14 million mark.
Yeah, I mean, somebody's got to make a decision if what's the maximum amount of bonding that we can do there.
Correct. I mean, has anybody, the elephant in the room, has anybody talked to Haynes or anyone else in regards to, again, we don't know what they want to give up square footage wise, what, for a footprint. So if we take this and say, okay, are you giving us this space? Because he might say, I'm giving you 12,000 square foot, and that's all I can afford to give. That blows us right out of the water right there. So I think before we make any decision of what plot of land or even, Tri-Town, we need to find out what they're willing to give up or give us to use for a footprint.
Amory and I met with Tom Haynes, I say 2 or 3 weeks ago, and had a very open and frank discussion with him about the potential of putting it there. And then I know Amory also met with Ron Spector. I wasn't able to attend that meeting, but she had some discussions with him as well. Discussion with Tom Haynes, they're very open and interested in the community center coming to the area behind Stop and Shop. The building that they have that is currently the rock cutting facility. They feel that just in the tentative discussions that we had, that they could put everything there with very limited land clearing needed. We talked about some initial, timelines of a vote at some point in the spring, and then, going through contracting and bidding process, that type of stuff, hopefully being in the ground in the fall of 22. And they thought that was a doable schedule for them. Again, I can't speak specifics about the conversation with Mr. Spector, but that would require, I think, acquiring some land in and around the Tri-Town Plaza area to make it work. And though the 2 parcels that are there would require some excavation work. And obviously we'd have to go through the process of negotiating with the owners to get that land. So, but the big thing in the question they asked essentially, and this is something that this group needs to determine, I think, by the next meeting, is how big of facility do we actually want? And I think once we have that, then we could go specifically to these folks and say, okay, we're going to build a 45,000 square foot. It needs to have a pool. It needs to have a gym this size, and it needs to have this much programming space. And how are you going to make it fit, and what a cost and things going to be?
Well, to add to that, if we're speaking with Haynes as one of them, what are they proposing they could build a 40, or if we give them this footprint and say, what can you build this for? You know what I mean? Be straight up and honest. What on your site, what could you build this building for us for? And that'll give us, you know, a close enough number that we can work with, because, you know, this one right here on our own property is going to cost us 18 million plus. Over there, the same footprint, is it going to be 18 million plus, or is it going to be
Well,
16 million?
No, hold on, Tom, Tim, before you say that, you know, if building the building here or there is going to be the same versus two things, prevailing wages versus non-prevailing, demoing the building versus not demoing. Okay, so if you go over there, you still have the building abatement you got to do, or demolition if you're going to do, or sell the building, one or the other.
Yeah.
We stay on the site, the building's still going to cost what the building's going to cost. The only thing is going to be higher due to prevailing wages. From there, you have to demo the building in order to get parking. You can't sell it. You know,
You're talking about our plot.
exactly.
Yeah,
Is there
correct.
someone who will buy it? I don't think someone's going to buy it for anything of value. They're going to have enough money that they got to sink in there just to clean the building to
Correct.
make it for any kind of use.
Yeah, that, again, for that building, it's going to be, you know, it's, you know, minimum that we'll receive if we sell it or whatever happens.
Right.
In the flip side, if it is a Haynes or a Ron or whoever it may be, you know, is it, you know, I know you're saying it'll be close to the same number anyways. It could and it couldn't be, because it depends on who wants, you know, is he going to donate some money? Is he going to put his money?
Tim,
You know
I
what I
think Tim wanted to follow up on that. I don't really think it's going to be the same wherever you drop it. I think that's a little naive on that part, because you've got to consider what infrastructure is there already. And that'd be a case where if it goes behind Franklin Street, the determination would be who's going to be footing the bill for the continuation of the infrastructure that need to go to this building.
True.
So that would change the dynamics of it a lot.
You could add $1 million there, $2 million. You could add $2 million in infrastructure.
You could add, but if we add $1 or $2 million, if that's the case, but then again, that infrastructure has to go again to support any other development that has to be put there. So you might not have to share the entire burden of that. But you know, the Pine Street location is a great location. It's you know, we do have it, but as far as if the design concept's looking good, I mean, you know, we could get we really need to have the cost analysis done, because we're going to get hit with what's just happened in the general construction trade. I mean, right now, you know, there's about 200% increase, you know, about what's going on in the economy here. So we really would have to start putting some details together on the building, because, you know, being off 2 or 3 million, I don't think will go over very well with any Seymour resident. I think we'd really have to nail it down.
Well,
It would have to be a lot more design. You know, if we get this out to a design firm or something like that. So I mean, if we can get money from the Board of Selectmen to, you know, at least get the initial designs of cost estimating, so we could start nailing the building down.
Yeah, 'cause if it comes in at 18, 20 million, we're not doing it.
You got to back it off. You got to do a little
Yeah.
you know,
Well, that's what I said. You got to know
cost
what the
design.
bonding capability is. So Kurt, you know, what is the bonding capability that we're going to have? Is this 15, 16 million? You know, if that's the case, then we got to talk about how we, you know, look at program and building to get the cost down.
We'd have to go back and, you know, I'll reach out to the underwriters and the financial advisor and go through that. But, you know, I think our initial plans were right around that, like I said, between 12 and 15 million. You know, a lot of it depends on debt structure. A lot of it depends on interest rates. You know, how we could position this. But again, on our property, and I'm not advocating one side over the other, but on our property, it's just cold cut. We go out, we bond, and we pay the principal and we pay the interest. It is what it is. So if it's 15 million, we borrow 15 million, we pay, you know, 18 or 19 million back over 30 years. That's just what it is. If it's a public-private partnership, there's other things that come into place where, you know, we can do a lease purchase and we can have smaller payments in the earlier years, balloon payment at the end, larger payments at the end. You can structure it a lot of different ways. And then, you know, just in conversation with Tom, you know, they look at this as an anchor to larger development. So, they have some interest in putting some skin in the game. So what that was, we didn't get into any specifics, because I don't think it would have been fair at that point to ask. But, they see this as kind of putting a flag in the ground, and I'm sure if we had the same conversation with Ron Spector, he would say the same thing. That, by putting this community center someplace, it's a lot easier for them to now reach out and do some type of mixed development, because this is a great amenity to have right there on the piece of their property. So what value does that provide? If, we work out some deal, instead of using our tax incentive program, which could potentially allow a developer for a $3 million investment to waive 100% of the taxes for 7 years, we can turn around and say, we'll use that to offset costs. So, I mean, there's different things that we can do to work through this. That's why I think we need to determine what we want first, and then price it out on our own, and then have it priced out by one of these private organizations, and then compare the two, proposals, and then make a decision. Because we're going to have to, and somebody brought it up, and I apologize, I don't remember who, but we ultimately have to bring something to the selectmen. Let the selectmen make a determination. Do they want to go forward, yes or no? And if so, we're going to need to, at that point, then hire some professionals to make some do some actual drawings and things like that, and get everything set. Mike, that came out the wrong way. I don't mean that you're not a professional, but you know what I'm saying. Just like you do a school project, go through that so we have something that we can put out toward the residents, give them something to vote on.
Why don't we take these and drop them in Haynes's lap and see what they think?
If we're comfortable with,
Carrot to them.
if we're comfortable with the look of what we have, then we can certainly do that. That's not a problem.
I think we're dealing with a footprint, but I think Mr. Stanek had a comment.
Oh, go ahead, Fred.
Yes, if I may.
Oh, we lost you, Fred.
Do you hear me now?
There you go.
Yes.
Okay. In discussing the arrangement between the public and private sector, the fact is we're talking about the cost of the building. If we go into the private sector, the owner is going to have to think about the value of the land and factor that into the cost also. That's just one point I wanted to make. But, I think the Pine Street site is a very community-oriented area. And I like the design and the concept that was presented by Mike this evening. I think, as Mike said, it would fit into the community, and it's in the downtown area. And I just think it creates a nice mood for the town to have this type of structure, this type of facility, these types of uses in the downtown area, visible, not hidden behind Stop and Shop, not off where Tri-Town is, off the state highway. I'm very much, at this point, I know it may be preliminary, in favor of the Pine Street site. It just makes a lot of sense to me for a lot of the reasons. As far as cost, I'm sure we could work on the cost. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred.
So Kurt, I'm just going to make a comment on, I think that's a space, if 50 to 60,000 square feet is definitely big enough for us. We'd have to utilize the design a little bit differently, but that means nothing. So the space that has been outlined here, we can make it work. We just might have to, readjust how things have been laid out.
Okay. Marianne, good God, Suzanne. God, my name's confused. Suzanne, since you kind of speak a little bit for the seniors as well, just giving it a quick look of what Mike has put together. Do you think that this meets the basic needs of kind of what you're hearing or what the seniors are telling you? I mean, just basics, nothing.
Sure. So currently that large senior center room, the 4,087 square feet, is that comparable to the bingo room? Is that what that's supposed to meet? And I know they'll have.
It's probably twice the size of the bingo room.
Okay, but and Mary can maybe answer that. They'll have access to the fitness center and the aerobics room and some of the meeting rooms during their time period, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
I don't see it as any, Suzanne, so that and I think you're in agreement with where Zach and I stand on this. we don't designate anything as a senior center area, or we have a senior center. We are a multi-purpose facility. I didn't want to get into that nitty gritty right now, but it wouldn't be designated as a senior center area. Everyone can go anywhere, and we designate the areas based on the programming that is going on at that particular time. So I think we want to be careful in future drawings to take that verbiage off of there so that we don't confuse the public.
Well, you don't want to not have something that says senior center, because there still should be a designated area that the seniors could go and get away from whatever's going on in that building also. Because you don't want 3-year-olds running through a certain area, or 5-year-olds with their family. So you got to have some sort of, because then there's not a senior center for the seniors. So you got to make sure we have something that states that, because that could deter a lot of people of if there's nothing dedicated to the seniors. Not that they can't go everywhere else the seniors have full reign of this whole building, but everybody shouldn't have full reign of whatever is dedicated for the seniors.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you could probably call that a multi-purpose room, or
Yeah.
that designate another name.
The daycare area or the childcare area would definitely need to be separated from some of our larger areas. And the majority of the people that use the center, it's going to be a mixture during the days, but I think we could designate it pretty easily.
Again, this is concept. This is first shot. As we get to tweak the building, you're going to be making a lot of changes.
Correct.
Just
Correct.
to
We're just
add
dealing with
to
a
it.
footprint.
Just to add to a couple of comments. And the first comment I would just like to say too, is that I myself prefer the Pine Street site, and I agree with Fred Stanek. I think it's out in the open, it anchors the town, it's in the downtown district versus being hidden behind Stop and Shop, even though it is a gateway. The second point is to follow that. I think it's very reasonable to say that with the demolition of the existing school and the cost there, and when we talk about the size of this building, that we're going to probably overreach our budget. And I really doubt that we're going to find ourselves not doing that. The third thing on the layout or the design of the building, I think we have to realize what functions have to be on the first floor. So the daycare and the childcare centers have to be on the first floor. And that's something in Connecticut, kind of specific to Connecticut, but that's what they require. Also, like Tim says, the separation between an area used for the seniors and the daycare. So we look at those as being, anchored on the first floor, as well as the gym and the pool. So anything else we could move to a second floor where we can start, recovering some, maybe a little value-based engineering going up, considering that we'd have to put an elevator and everything else, we might, find ourselves spending a little less money there and increasing our parking, which this layout or the layout with the parking is much better than just filling up the whole field. So, I think we really need to get into some cost analysis, because if we start spreading out over 50, 60,000, we're going to find ourselves probably looking at a bill that we won't be able to write the check for. And,
Correct.
I think that's just a reality that's going to come.
And so what I'll do then, if I'm hearing what everyone is saying, is Mike, you could start to work maybe with Jim and Tim and get this estimated out for Pine Street. And at the same time, I could send this schematic over to Haynes. I can send it to Ron Spector and get an idea of what they think costs might be on that.
I would waste your time with Ron.
I'm sorry?
I wouldn't waste your time with Ron.
Okay. So then I'll send it.
Yeah, he would look at us to build Ron would look at us to build it and put it on there with a ground lease. I don't think he wants to invest that kind of money in a building, and he's not sought him. His cost of money is going to be really high.
Right. Okay. So then I'll send this over then to Tom Haynes.
Yeah.
And ask him if he could have something back for that meeting in August. We may have to push a week to the second week in August, but I'll talk to him and see kind of what's what to give him some time. But do you think, Jimmy, Tim, and Mike, that, 2 or 3 weeks gives you guys enough time to put a
It's
real number to this?
Well, it depends whether you want to go conceptual estimate or a little more detailed. I mean, they're all going to be putting together a per square foot cost on this.
Yeah, I personally have no experience estimating in this genre. I think this has to go out to I think we'd have to invest some money and go out to an estimator and, but again, without details of what the components are or how the building's going to be built, I think that's a little premature.
Well, I got two options I can do. I can get it out to a construction manager to give me a conceptual estimate for a limited, fee, or just try to do it for them, see if I can get it for nothing. Or I can send it to our estimating company we use in New York. They're very, very reasonable. I can probably get it for like $1,000 to do a independent estimate. But I do have a CM who would do it for free. Do a conceptual estimate.
Well, I think we're just looking at this point for our conversation on, in August, of a ballpark.
Yeah,
And-
we want to know if it's
Correct.
50 million or 25 million.
Right. And if we, and to some of the things we've said, hey, if you want to add gym space, the gym space specifically is going to cost X a square foot. That, that type of thing.
What I want to know is what's their most expensive items on a per square foot basis. We know the pool is going to be very high.
Right.
Pool probably could be $400 a square foot or more. Some of the other areas, like what Jim said, if we stack and we can, save on site work and do some other things, we can figure those things out. Maybe those are $250 or $300 a square foot. So let me pull together some ideas and go from there.
Okay. Yeah, I may have a person that could throw the estimate together as well, that I think would probably donate it for us. But I could reach out and have a conversation with them. And then now, and let's, so obviously we're getting these, these quotes, but we also have to talk about the viability of programs and things. So if we stay on the site at Pine Street, let's kind of walk through a timeline of what we'd be looking at. So as everyone's thinking over the next 2 weeks or so, and kind of, just preparing themselves to that meeting in August to have a good conversation. We're going to have to essentially shut the community center down for a certain period of time, because there's no way we could build a building, in that lot and then still have active programming. So
You could.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You can work around it.
Yeah, you work
Okay.
around it.
Okay.
That's
So
the-
that's
that's
not a
the beauty-
concern at all.
No, that's the beauty about having that lot the way it is. If we were going to renovate, you'd have to close it down probably.
Okay. Okay. No, then never mind. Scratch that.
Yeah.
I think
You know,
for
there'll be
the
some
next meeting, a lot of it.
parking.
What was that, Mike?
There'll be logistics and parking.
Correct. Yeah, that'll be your only issue. Which
Well, there's-
what Mike said about using the church parking lot, that other parking lot that's over there.
There's already logistics and parking now, so.
Correct. So
Thank you for saying that, Kurt.
I mean,
that's all right. A little jockeying around never hurt anybody.
that's right.
But I think, for next meeting, a lot's going to fall on Mary, Zach, and Suzanne to show what needs they think they're going to need for the senior center, for the gymnasium, for the layout of what's their most, producing, what could produce the most money and what they need to produce that money. So I think that's for the gym layout itself and for everything else, and what their needs, what they think they need with Mike's footprint right now. We're not set in stone to, the hallways here or anything like that. They need to show us what they need.
Well, and so Mary and Zach, can you take Mike's sketch, the one that's up in front of us right now, and over the next few days, make some notes, what's good, what's bad, what you like, what you don't, what's missing, that type of thing. And then perhaps we could all, we get you guys together next week to kind of button this up a little bit. and then get something to the estimator. So our next meeting is scheduled for August 5th, which is in 3 weeks, and it seems like an awful heavy lift to get all this done in 3 weeks.
We can do it.
Mr. Chairman,
We'll
I
get you
will
an
be
estimate.
away that week.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Chairman, I will be away that first week of August.
Okay. Well, I was thinking, how about if we pushed it to either the 12th or the 19th? Is that an issue for anybody?
I'm in Tampa on the 12th.
Does anybody have an issue with the 19th
Of,
of August? Because that would give us a month, but the goal of that meeting on the 19th would be we would come out with a recommendation to go to the selectmen, the first meeting in September, which would be September 7th. Where we would put a little presentation together. This is our recommendations. This is why. This is what our projected cost is. And this is the budget that we're asking for to be able to prepare for referendum in the spring. So that would be the goal of the August meeting.
sounds like a plan.
Sounds good to me.
So the 19th is good for everybody?
Good for me. Yep.
So let me say, yeah, 19th is fine, Kurt. A referendum in the spring means you're not building until the fall, which means you probably just added another $500,000 or more on
Okay.
inflation, with inflation.
Yeah, I mean, there's absolutely no way we would make November. It's just not possible, because we would have to have the question done and voted on, essentially the meeting in September.
Okay.
That first meeting, because I believe it's, and Fred, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's what, 75 days before the ballot, if I'm remembering correctly?
Yes, yes.
85 days, something like that. So, you know, it's just not time. Now, listen, we jammed it through last time with no preparation for a specific reason, because that's the only time people actually pay attention. And it did its job, where it actually got people to pay attention to the project and actually talk about it. But this time, you know, we have to look at this like
have
a
to make
school project and lead up to it, because we're asking for a lot of money. If, you know, we put 12 or $15 million in front of the residents with no information, it's not going to pass.
You're going to want to have some public hearing presentations.
Yeah, without a
Yeah.
doubt.
Yeah, and that'll give us plenty of time. And, you know, maybe things change, and, you know, maybe the market gets better. I know that's probably wishful thinking, but.
Right. Okay.
All right, so the plan then, I just want to go back through this to make sure that everybody is on board. So Zach and Mary, you'll take this drawing that's up in front of us. You'll make a bunch of notes, what you like, what you don't, what's missing, what needs to be taken away, that type of thing. And then we'll
Look at
schedule.
sizes. You know, when you do that, look at the sizes, make sure I'm not all, you know, way off on certain things.
And then we'll get you guys together with Mike and maybe Tim and Jim next week. And then you guys can really button that up tight. And then once that is set, we can bring the estimators in.
Well, we get started. We get started before that, Kirk.
Okay. All right.
All you're going to do is going to start tweaking square footage.
Okay.
I do have a question though, from a concept look, because that's going to drive cost. You know, as Jim said, you know, there's a lot of elements to cost. Going to a barrel roof is going to be a little bit more money than going to a flat roof. What I hate to do is see, you know, us look at the design, the location, the impact of the design, and sacrifice certain things just to try to save money versus, you know, we got to look at how we design the building.
Yeah, it has to be aesthetically pleasing, because we don't want an eyesore in the middle of town.
Right.
Because it's going to be a staple. It's going to be, you know.
It's
gonna be
right
known.
there.
Yeah,
Right
exactly. Yep. No, we can't cheat out on that. Definitely not.
Exactly. This is a project that's going to be a signature of this town also, and I think it's very important that we do it right.
Yeah,
Right.
correct.
Oh, great. But we got to find that balance though.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
I think you're
having
hitting some, I think you're hitting some of the balance with this concept here, where you're actually, if you keep the gym and the pool area with the barrel roof on it, and you keep that elevation as your very nice architectural elevation, you block off the back half of the building, because a lot of the equipment for this building is going to be placed on the roof, because
Right.
I think, Mike, right now, we still got to elevate about a foot to get out of floodplain.
Correct.
So we're going to be putting a lot of equipment on the roof that we're going to want to block off. So the design concept, like Mike said in the beginning, whether it's a barrel roof or a gable roof or everything, that's kind of a smart move, what's going on right now. And then blocking off the back half of the building where it's not seen. You know, you wouldn't be able, even in the winter, you wouldn't be able to see it, because, you know, the Naugatuck River's there, and you'd have to be over on South Main Street to see that.
Right.
But we're gonna need a lot of flat roof space for equipment and whatnot. And so the Derby Avenue side definitely is the aesthetic side.
all right, so Steve, could you put an agenda? We'll have to do a cancellation for August 5th. And then we'll put a new agenda together for August 19th.
Sure.
If that date works for everybody. Now we'll get information out to everybody as quickly as it comes in. But again, the goal is going to be on August 19th that we're going to make a decision as to what we're going to recommend to the selectmen. So that decision is going to be location and kind of general building concept. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
Okay. So if you have questions or anything, shoot them to the entire group, just the question itself. And then we'll provide an answer back, but it's not an open conversation. I just would like everybody to see the question. I just don't want to get into any FOI issues, but I'm sure some people are going to have the same question. So ask it, and then we can get the answer back out to everybody. So, okay. Anything additional anyone wants to add? Anything we missed? No? All right, hold on, I lost the agenda. So bear with me a second. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything on the agenda. All right, so we move on to item number 5, which would be old business, kind of continued discussion, possible action on the use of the existing community center site on Pine Street. I think we kind of wrapped that all up. Item 6, member comments. Any additional comments from any of the members? Anything that we didn't discuss? Anything you'd like to bring up?
Once again, I would like to thank Mike for his hard work in putting together the concept tonight.
You're welcome.
Agreed. Even from vacation, he's doing this, so that's nice. Mary, even though you're not an official member, anything you want to add?
Nope, I think we're good. We'll sit
Okay.
down and kind of outline some things.
Okay. All right, if there's no other member comments, item 7, is there any public comment? Any members of the public? Not seeing anyone. Okay, so seeing no members of the public wanting to make comments. We'll move on to item 8, which is adjournment. So I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Jim, second by Tim. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Motion carries unanimously. We'll mark the meeting closed at 8:11 p.m. And I thank everyone for. What?
Who made the motion? It's Monica.
Tim made the motion. It was seconded by Jim Baldwin. So Tim Connors and Jim Baldwin.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, everybody, have a great weekend. And look for emails and over the next week or so as information kind of goes back and forth. And then Mike, we'll be in touch probably Monday.
Yeah, I'll be
give
back.
Mary, and you're back then?
I'm back on Monday afternoon.
All right, yeah, so why don't you shoot a text when you're back and then we can get a time together for you, Mary, and Zach to hook up.
Okay,
Sounds good.
Perfect.
See you later.
thanks.
All right,
Thank
thanks,
you.
everybody.
Good night,
Thank
everybody.
Bye,
Bye, guys.
Thank you, Mr.
Good night.
Chairman.
Good night.
Good night.